The two men who stepped out of the black Suburban were dressed in plain clothes, but their demeanor said everything. One tall and square-jawed with a hard stare, the other built like a linebacker and scanning the perimeter like it was hostile territory. They didn't speak to me. They didn't speak to the sheriff. They walked straight to Karen. "Ma'am," the taller one said, holding up a badge that flashed with the seal of the Department of Homeland Security. "We need to ask you a few questions about this call." Karen blinked like someone had splashed ice water in her face. This is insane," she stammered. "All I did was call the police. There were horses swimming. How was I supposed to know they were?" "What? Secret agents?" The shorter agent raised an eyebrow. "They're not secret agents, but they are listed as reserve-trained Border Patrol assets. You made a formal emergency report concerning them. That triggers a federal review. You're being recorded on your own live stream right now, by the way." Karen instinctively lowered her phone. Too late. Morales stepped forward, arms crossed. "You understand now why I told you not to make that call, Karen. We've been trying to keep these horses off the radar. There are still threats. Cartels watch these movements. Even retired patrol animals can attract the wrong eyes." Karen started to step back, but the DHS agent stood firm. "I didn't know," she yelled. "I didn't know any of this. They were just splashing around. I thought it was weird, okay. I thought he was doing something illegal." "You thought wrong," I said from behind them. Her eyes flashed toward me, and for a moment, I saw something beneath the panic. Not fear. Not even guilt, rage. The taller agent noticed too. "We'll need to get a statement from you," he said to Karen. "And since you've now publicly accused a federal handler of animal mistreatment, that'll be noted as well." "I'm not giving you anything," she shouted. "This is harassment. I know my rights." "You can't just walk onto private property," the agent cut her off. "You're not on your own property, ma'am. You're standing on his." She turned in a full circle, realizing too late that in her rush to confront me, she'd crossed the wire fence that lined the far end of my pasture. It wasn't even marked well. It didn't have to be. This land had been in my family for 3 generations, and every corner was mapped and filed. For the first time in 20 minutes, Karen went quiet. Blanca let out a sudden whinny from the riverbank, like she could sense the tension breaking. The taller agent looked at Morales. "We'll need to review the footage she recorded, and get access to the HOA security logs if this incident was coordinated in any way, ... Morales nodded grimly. "I'll get you everything you need." Karen turned slowly and walked back to her SUV, but before she opened the door, she turned to me. "You think you're clever, don't you?" she hissed. "This isn't over." I didn't respond, just tipped my hat, more out of habit than anything. As she drove off, tires spitting gravel, the DHS agents approached me. "Anything out of the ordinary lately?" the big one asked. "Trespassing. Surveillance drones. Footprints by the river." I frowned. "Why?" The taller agent exchanged a look with the other. Then he said quietly, "Because someone's been watching your land. And we think Karen might have led them straight to it." By the time the dust from Karen's SUV had settled, the mood had shifted completely. The DHS agents weren't here for horses. They were here for something deeper, something they hadn't said out loud yet, but I could read it on their faces. Concern masked behind calm. They asked me to walk with them to the riverbank. Rico stood there silently, towering and alert, eyes scanning the brush like he used to back in the field. Blanca nudged the taller agent, almost recognizing the scent of federal leather. The taller one finally spoke. "We've been tracking strange signals coming from this area, surveillance pings, motion sensor disruptions, even thermal anomalies near the riverline." I folded my arms. "You think it's cartel scouts?" He didn't answer directly. "We intercepted a transmission last week. Encrypted chatter referencing a blind fence zone near the water. The coordinates. Right where your horses swim." I looked down at the hoof prints. They were everywhere, but behind them just barely was a trail I hadn't noticed before. Smaller prints, not animal, not mine, human. The big agent stepped into the water, careful, precise. Then he stopped. "You ever see this before?" He pointed to a strange disturbance in the current. It was subtle, a swirling spot that didn't match the flow. I squinted. Something was beneath it. A shadow. Without a word, I grabbed a rope and waded in. The river was cold, but I'd trained for worse. I dropped the line into the water, hooked it around something solid, with one hard pull. The earth groaned on, a metal panel shifted. A hatch, the taller agent knelt beside it. Steel reinforced, looks old, maybe part of a decommissioned drain system from before the floodwall upgrades. I knew what he was thinking before he said it. It's been repurposed. We climbed out, soaked but focused. The agents exchanged looks. Whatever this was, it wasn't an accident. Someone had turned part of my land into an access point, a tunnel, maybe more, and Karen had walked right into the middle of it. One of the agents pulled out a tablet. He tapped into a satellite link and pulled up infrared footage that, in grainy night vision, was my river and a figure, wearing a hoodie, pacing back and forth near the fence line, with something in his hands, a box. He kneeled and appeared to press something against the fence pole. Motion sensor, DISRUPTOR. The feed timestamp. 2 nights ago, the taller agent looked up. This spot's hot. Someone's using it to smuggle, and we believe Karen's HOA cameras were tapped to provide cover scanning patrol schedules, neighbor routines, even your horse routes. I stiffened. Are you saying Karen was working with them? No, the agent replied. We think she was being used. He held up his tablet, scrolling to another clip. HOA camera footage from last week. A man in a maintenance vest, face covered, walking casually past Karen's house. He stops at her side panel, then opens it. Unwiring, they piggybacked her camera system, and she probably had no idea. But her obsession with the horses, I started might have led them here faster. The big agent finished. That's when my phone buzzed. A motion alert from my personal camera, the one nobody knew about. I tapped the screen. Live feed, and there in the shadows near my southern fence was Karen, alone, with a flashlight and something wrapped in black plastic over her shoulder. Karen was back. At the river. Alone, and carrying something wrapped in black plastic. I stared at the live feed on my phone, heart pounding, throat tight. It was past 10 p.m. No one should have been out there, especially not her. Not after the mornings. Chaos, not after the agents had warned us both. I flagged the agents immediately. She's there right now. South fence line. Look, the big one leaned over my shoulder. Zoom in. What's in her hands? I tried, but the shadows were thick and the lens distorted by river mist. Still, I could make out a long bundle, heavy-looking, and wrapped tight. Karen was dragging it toward the river like she was afraid of being seen. Or worse, like she was about to dump something. We moved. Morales stayed behind to call for backup while the 2 agents, and Rico rode out under moonlight. The horses knew the path. The tension in the air was thick, every rustle of grass, every whisper of current, sharper than normal. Even the river felt like it was holding its breath. We reached the clearing just as Karen stepped into the shallows. She didn't see us at first. She was too busy struggling with the object in her arms, cursing under her breath. Karen called out, loud and clear. She froze. The beam of a flashlight cut through the dark, landing right on her face. She squinted, shielding her eyes. Then, like something inside her snapped, she dropped the bundle and turned to run. Stop, the taller agent shouted. Hands where we can see them. She didn't listen. Rico didn't wait for orders. With one sharp whistle, he galloped ahead and cut her off at the slope. Trained reflexes took over. He sidestepped into her path, forced her backward, then stood guard like a stone statue. Karen dropped to her knees. I didn't know they'd be watching, she cried. I thought I could just get rid of it. The agents surrounded her. One went for the bundle. Carefully, he unwrapped it layer by layer, knife cutting through wet plastic. Inside was a camera system. Not just any camera. Military-grade motion sensors, heat tracking, with wireless uplink modules. The kind of tech smugglers use when drones fail. The big agent held it up. This was on your property. Karen nodded slowly. He told me it was for HOA perimeter security. Said it was better than the cheap ones the committee approved. Who? I asked. She looked up, eyes red. Ray from maintenance. Said he was ex-security. Said he was helping with upgrades. I didn't ask questions, I just signed the form. Did he ever come inside your house? Karen hesitated. HE installed a router. Said it was part of the system. The agents looked at each other. That was enough. That router wasn't for you, the tall one said. It was for them. You've been feeding them footage for weeks. They used your HOA posts to map out our schedules. Even your complaints about the horses helped them pick which nights were safe. Karen dropped her head. I didn't know. I swear you're not the first, the agent said. But you're the first who nearly got federal assets compromised. Then he turned to me. Whatever they were tracking, it's under that hatch. And they were almost ready to use it again. We all looked toward the riverbank, toward the steel panel we'd found earlier. The earth around it had been disturbed, not by hooves, by boots. Fresh ones. That tunnel wasn't abandoned, and someone maybe. Even Ray was already inside it. The agents didn't waste a second, while one secured Karen in the back of the cruiser, still trembling, muttering that she didn't mean any harm. The other radioed for a tactical response. I stayed behind with Rico and Blanca, watching the hatch. The water flowed peacefully, unaware of what lay just beneath. Within 20 minutes, DHS reinforcements arrived for agents in black tactical gear, night vision scopes lowered, weapons shouldered. They surrounded the steel hatch like it might explode. One agent dropped to a knee, flashlight in hand, prying open the rusted panel with a crowbar. The sound it made echoed like a scream into the trees. What lay underneath wasn't a simple drain tunnel. It was a man-made shaft, about 6 feet wide, lined with reinforced concrete and laced with fiber optic cable. The faint hum of machines pulsed up from the dark like a heartbeat. The lead agent turned to me. You ever go down here? Never, I said, stunned. Didn't even know it existed. He nodded, pulled a small drone from his pack, and sent it buzzing into the shaft. We all watched its feed on a tablet. The tunnel went deep, 30-40 feet, then it leveled out. Straight, clean, well lit by hidden LED strips, and then, something strange. A room. The drone hovered at its threshold, capturing grainy footage of crates, dozens of them stacked neatly, labeled in Spanish, markings burned into the sides: propiedad privada, no abrir, private property, do not open. The agent tapped the screen. We've seen these before. Narcotics, maybe, but more often than not, tech, weapons, communication relays. The other agent leaned in. One of the cartels has been experimenting with black market surveillance equipment, stuff that can track border patrol shifts. This might be one of their drop stations. My blood ran cold. They weren't just using the river, they were using my land. That's when we heard it. Faint, metallic. Footsteps. The drone mic picked it up before our ears did. A single set, echoing fast. Someone running. Someone's still down there, the lead agent said. Probably Ray. He didn't just install those cameras. He planted them and stayed behind to monitor. Without a word, the team descended into the shaft, silent as shadows. One agent remained above with me, eyes sharp, hand near his sidearm. Minutes passed like hours, then radio chatter. Fast, urgent, suspect sighted moving east through the tunnel. Dropped a pack, requesting exit lockdown. Possible explosives. In crate standby. Explosives. The agent, with me, swore under his breath. What kind of HOA surveillance project uses bombs? I didn't answer, because I already knew. This wasn't about just my horses, or Karen's nosiness, or even about drones. This was an operation. Hidden beneath the facade of a quiet, gated community was a smuggling ring with military precision. And the only reason we'd found it was because a woman with too much time on her hands got mad about horses swimming in a river. The agent's radio crackled again. Tunnel secure. Suspect escaped, may have surfaced somewhere outside the perimeter. We've recovered the crates. Sending video feed now. The tablet lit up once more. Inside the crates. Not drugs. Not weapons. Uniforms. Military-grade. Tactical vests. ID badges. Badges designed to imitate Border Patrol agents. They weren't tracking the real ones. They were planning to replace them, and they were going to use my land to do it. The crates full of imitation Border Patrol uniforms changed everything. The agents didn't speak for a long time. They just stared at the screen, jaws clenched, radios silent. Then the taller one finally broke the silence. We're not just dealing with smugglers, he said. We're dealing with infiltrators. I took a step back. You're saying they were going to pose as Border Patrol? He nodded grimly. And if we hadn't found this tonight, they might have succeeded. You ever wonder why those horses were assigned to you in the first place? I blinked. What? The big agent, silent until now, finally spoke. You weren't just a random handler, Mr. Carter. Rico and Blanca weren't just retired. They were reassigned. That word landed like a thunderclap. Reassigned, he continued. After their unit was disbanded due to a cartel ambush at the southern checkpoint, both horses were flagged as compromised assets. Most were decommissioned. but 2 were kept in federal custody because they were trained to sniff out disguised uniforms, buried electronics, and most importantly, he looked at me dead on, people pretending to be who they're not. I took a long breath. Everything clicked at once. The strange way Rico reacted to certain neighbors. The way Blanca always lingered near Karen's fence, nostrils flaring. They hadn't been aimlessly grazing or swimming, they were working, and I was their cover. So what? I'm just part of a sting operation. Not just a part, the tall agent said. You're the bait. He handed me a tablet, replaying footage from earlier in the week. Footage taken by my own hidden trail cam. It showed a man walking through the woods behind my property. In the dead of night it was Ray, but not in his usual HOA vest. This time, he wore a border patrol jacket, a real one, or close enough to fool most. He had a radio, boots, weapon holsters. He looked official, confident, but Rico had growled when he smelled that jacket 3 days ago. I remembered, now he had backed up, ears pinned, like he was ready to charge. Because he knew it wasn't real. They're using these uniforms to stage checkpoint substitutions, the agent continued, replacing agents for short windows enough time to move cargo or people through unnoticed. They needed to test their methods, test their scent blockers, test their behavioral disguises. And they needed to test it against the one thing they couldn't beat, trained patrol mounts. And Karen? I asked. What was her role? The agent sighed. She was just noise, a liability. But the smugglers used her HOA security obsession, her access to systems. Her blind need to catch someone doing something wrong. She was their perfect distraction. I looked toward the dark trees, feeling a mix of anger and pity. That's when a shout came from the tunnel entrance. We've got a map. The agents rushed over. A junior tech held a laminated diagram pulled from behind one of the crates. It showed a full blueprint of the HOA neighborhood with red lines connecting key access points, storm drains, utility panels, sewer lines, and 3 marked exits within a 2-mile radius. The tall agent frowned. They're not done. No, the big one added. They were just getting started. Then he turned to me. We're going to need your help, Mr. Carter. Again. And this time, it's not just about horses. I looked down at Rico and Blanca, both still, alert, like they understood what was coming. Whatever was buried beneath this town wasn't over, and someone maybe, even someone on the HOA board itself, was still working for the other side. Karen sat in a mobile command van, silent, wrapped in a DHS thermal blanket like it could hide her shame. She wasn't in handcuffs, but only because the agents needed her. The tall agent leaned in. You're not under arrest yet, but you are complicit in a federal breach. Now's your chance to walk out clean. Or burn with the others. Karen's lips trembled. I didn't know. I swear. Ray just said he was upgrading the HOA systems. He said it would help keep people like him out. She shot me a look, and that if I helped, I could run for president of the board next election. I nearly laughed. She sold out an entire border patrol sting for a seat on a neighborhood committee. The agent didn't flinch. Where did you last see Ray? Karen wiped her nose, voice low. Yesterday. He said we were being watched. Told me to destroy the cameras, clean up any hardware he left behind, and she stopped. And what? The agent demanded. Karen hesitated. He told me if anything went wrong, to go to the old HOA storage shed. Where is it? She pointed toward the wooded western edge of the neighborhood. It used to be part of a landscaping supply unit before the new development came in. It's not even on the new HOA maps. The agents moved fast. Within 15 minutes, a small team surrounded the structure, half buried under vines and thyme. From the outside, it looked abandoned. But inside, fresh footprints, and food wrappers, bottled water, a burner phone, blueprints, and pinned to the wall. Photos of every member of the HOA board, each marked in red pen. Notes scribbled beside them. Too nosy. Avoid. Reliable. Loyal DHS contact. And under one name, Becky Linwood, HOA treasurer. Single word. Clean. One of the agents raised a brow. She's your treasurer. I nodded slowly. She's quiet. Keeps to herself. Never shows up to meetings in person. Always votes by proxy. The tall agent's face darkened. Which is exactly how a mole stays invisible. Then a text came in. From Karen's burner phone, which had been handed to our surveillance team, a new message. From a hidden number, shed compromised. Drop everything. Move to fallback. Go black. The number pinged. Tower trace. Nearby, less than a mile away. The agents burst into motion. One of them turned to me. "You're with us. Rico and Blanca know this ground better than anyone. If she's running, you'll find her first." We saddled up fast, cutting across the hills. The sun had nearly vanished behind the horizon, painting the sky blood orange. Every shadow felt like a threat. Then Blanca stopped. Right at the creek bed that marked the property line. She pawed the ground, then froze, ears alert, and in the distance barely visible a figure, running into the trees. Morales shouted, "That's her, Becky." We galloped. Rico surged forward like he was back on duty, hooves pounding like thunder. The figure darted left, trying to disappear into the ravine trails, but Rico cut her off clean. No hesitation. She turned, yanked something from her bag, a gun. I raised my hands. "Don't. You're not getting away. This whole area is locked down." Becky Linwood, treasurer of our neighborhood's HOA, stared me down with the calm of a trained soldier. "You have no idea what you're in the middle of. You think this is about smuggling. We were protecting something bigger." "What?" Before she could answer, shot rang out, not hers, a sniper. Becky dropped. The woods went dead silent. We dove for cover. Morales shouted into his radio. "Shooter. Direction unknown. Get eyes in the trees now." And just like that, the real war began. Becky dropped like a stone. One moment she was clutching that pistol like her life depended on it, and the next, her knees gave out, eyes wide, falling backward into the dirt. A clean shot, right through the shoulder. Not fatal, intentional. I rushed over as Morales barked into his radio. "We've got her. Wounded but conscious. Shooters still active Northeast Ridge." Blanca stood guard beside me as I knelt by Becky's side. She was pale, but not out. Her jaw was tight with pain, but her eyes, she was still fighting. "Still hiding something?" "You're lucky that sniper was aiming to disable," I said, checking for an exit wound. "What were you about to tell me?" Her fingers twitched. Then, in a voice raspy and low, she whispered, "Look in the safe house, under the floor. The green box. Keys behind the treasurer's plaque. That's where the truth is." Then she passed out. Agents rushed in and took over, securing her and checking the perimeter, but my mind was already racing. The safe house. I knew the one she meant, a small utility cabin near the HOA tennis courts. Supposedly just for emergency supplies and power access. Nobody ever used it, except Becky. We rode straight there. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the only light now was our flashlights and the moon filtering through oak trees. The door was unlocked. Inside, dust and silence. I pulled the treasurer's plaque from the wall. Nothing fancy, just a brass nameplate screwed into plywood, but behind it, taped to the back, a tiny metal key. I knelt down, scanned the floor, and found the loose board barely visible unless you knew where to look. Rico nudged it once with his nose, snorting. I pried it up. Beneath it, a small military-grade lockbox. Green, dented, sealed with a biometric pad and keyhole. I used the key, it clicked on inside. Documents, photos, maps, and one unmistakable ID badge, DHS, but not Becky, single quotes. It belonged to Agent Leonard Dorsey, the very same field agent who had first dropped Rico and Blanca off to me weeks ago. Morales leaned over my shoulder. "That's not possible. Dorsey was reassigned to Arizona months ago." I pulled out the file beneath the badge. A full dossier labeled, Operation Greenfence Confidential. And what I read made my skin go cold. Becky hadn't been infiltrating DHS. She had been planted by DHS. She was part of a secret joint agency task force designed to monitor corruption inside DHS itself, and Dorsey's name came up more than once in suspected leaks. He had created the cover, transferring Rico and Blanca to retirement as a pretense to observe how agents and smugglers were using the HOA neighborhood's tunnel system. But somewhere along the way, Dorsey had gone dark, and Becky had gotten too close to the truth. "Dorsey's the real mole," Morales muttered. "He orchestrated the fake uniform ring, the smuggling lanes, even the handler reassignment. He knew you'd asked questions. But he didn't expect the horses to stay alert. It all came together. Karen was a pawn, Becky was a ghost operative, and I thought I was bait, but the wrong kind of bait." I stood slowly. "If Dorsey's gone rogue, he'll come back to clean this up." Morales nodded. "Yeah. And when he does," he pointed toward Rico and Blanca, "we'll be ready." Just then, my phone buzzed, an unknown number, one word in the text, "Run." The lights in the cabin flickered. Then, outside the sound, of tires on gravel. He was already here. The tires screeched outside. Headlights flared through the dusty cabin windows, then went dark. No engine sound. Just silence. That terrifying, surgical kind of silence, like a predator waiting for your next move. Morales drew his sidearm. That's not backup. I handed him the green lockbox and whispered, take it to command. If something happens to me, this evidence gets out. He hesitated. You're not going alone. But Rico had already turned, muscles taut, ears forward, ready. I climbed into the saddle. Blanca circled once, pawing the dirt as if she knew this was it. Outside, the gravel crunched. A shadow stepped into view. No badge, no radio. Just Agent Leonard Dorsey, in full DHS uniform, but it didn't match. A fake patch, the wrong boots, the wrong belt. Mr. Carter, he said, smiling like an old friend. They told me you were just a horse handler. Funny, how things change, huh? I held Rico steady. Funny how you're still wearing a badge you don't deserve. He raised both hands casually. Look, I'm not here to shoot you. I'm here to make you an offer. You've seen how deep this goes. You really think you can trust the agency to clean it up? Half of them are in on it. I've got your files. I know everything. He chuckled. Not everything. You think. This neighborhood is the only tunnel hub. This was one node. A test site. You shut this down. 10 more pop up. But you, with those horses, with the camera coverage, the trust of the board, you could run this block like a king. Keep it quiet. Keep it efficient. I could cut you in. Rico snorted, pawing at the gravel. He was seconds from charging. I don't need your offer, I said. You should start running. Dorsey sighed and lowered his hands. Just enough to pull the trigger, but Blanca moved first. She lunged from behind, knocking him sideways as the shot went off, grazing my arm. Not fatal, but enough to jolt me back. Rico surged forward as I leaned down and grabbed the pistol from Dorsey's belt in the chaos. He stumbled to his feet, face bloodied, eyes wild. You have no idea what you've done, he hissed. This whole town runs because of me. No, I said. It ran because you made everyone too afraid to question you. Then I heard the whir of drone blades overhead, followed by spotlights from incoming federal units. Morales must have activated emergency trace. Dozens of black SUVs and tactical units flooded in. Dorsey bolted into the trees. I gave Rico one sharp kick. We chased. The forest lit up with flashlights and laser sights. Branches whipped past. I caught glimpses of Dorsey ducking through the old water pipe trail, straight toward the underground river. When I reached the concrete mouth of the tunnel, he was already halfway in, shouting something into a satellite phone. I raised the pistol. Don't. He turned. No fear, just arrogance. Even if you shoot me, it's too late. This tunnel leads to something deeper than you'll ever understand. Then he stepped into the water and vanished. A second later, boom. The riverbed erupted a pre-planted charge. The tunnel collapsed in on itself, rocks and water exploding into the air. Rico reared back, nearly throwing me. Dorsey was gone. Dead, or disappeared. Epilogue. Weeks passed. The tunnels were sealed. Karen, facing charges, turned state's witness. Becky survived and was moved into federal protection. The HOA completely restructured under federal oversight, and me. I still live here. Rico and Blanca roam freely now, heroes of the block. People wave. Kids bring carrots. No one questions their daily swims anymore. But every so often, late at night, I still check the creek bed. Because that final text never left my phone. Run. And it came 5 seconds before the tunnel blue dot from Dorsey's number. The end.